think we have all heard some version of this story before. Machine versus man. It's the classic sci-fi trope, really. Stories like Ex Machina go in depth to explain what would happen if a machine gains sentience and starts acting like humans. Whereas in Blade Runner, while there are no machines, the replicants are man-made humanoids, and they represent the working class, those who do the jobs that no one else is willing to do. And when we are done with them, they are decommissioned. And whereas stories like The Terminator take a more cynical approach and say that machines gaining sentience and becoming human-like will eventually lead to an all-out war in between machines and humans, leading to a near extinction level event. Steelrising, at least from what I have played in the beta so far, is a beautiful combination of all of the above tropes. With a twist, the machines have mutinied. They have killed the humans they were meant to guard, which this game shows beautifully in a few horrific scenes. And so it is only the sweetest of ironies that the fate of humanity be rested upon one of the automatons who are responsible for this crisis in the first place. And in fact, on the one automaton that most stories would paint as the villain, as it is the only one that has gained sentience. It is the one that is closest to a human. Funny how that works in most movies. Aegis was a dancer automaton. She wasn't ever meant to fight. And yet, over time, as her loyalty to the queen grew, she became more sentient, gained the ability to fight, speak, and understand what other people are telling her. In time, she became the queen's bodyguard. Understandably, Queen Marie Antoinette is horrified of Aegis. It is, after all, her kind that have locked them up here and won't let them leave this place. Her kind that slaughtered humans, and yet, in a time of desperate need, the queen places her trust in Aegis and sends her away. You might wonder why I have spent so much time on what seems to be such a minor part of the game, in the review of a closed beta no less. It is because these themes are clearly visible in this closed beta, as well as they could have been, and it consists of only the first two levels of the game no less. And the secondary reason for me to spend so much time on this is to express how much thought and care has been put into every aspect of this game. Nothing has been left as just, it's a cool premise, go along with it. Sure, some things were left that way, but that is, at least in my opinion, more due to this being an open beta consisting of only 2 levels rather than anything else. Let's take an example. Steelrising is a Souls-like or Soulsbourne, meaning that it has a checkpoint system, combat system, and general gameplay similar to a From Software Darksouls or Bloodborne game. Now, FromSoft in all of its games makes it a point to explain the respawn mechanics. For example, in Darksouls, it is the Undead Curse. In Elden Ring, you are tarnished. In Sekiro, you have the Dragon's Blood. But that is not the same for other developers who take a foray into this genre. Most famously, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order took no time to explain why you respawn at a meditation point when you die, and why the enemies respawn along with you at the exact same spots that they were before. What, is the transport just leaving them at the same place? Will you not see the dead bodies lying around? You can probably guess after me doing this much setup that in this game, this is not the case. If you guessed that, you would be right. And not only that, in this game, it went ahead and tied its core theme of automatons into the respawn mechanics. When you die, Aegis is broken. However, throughout the game, you come across Vestals, which are this game's version of bonfires, where Aegis can rest and repair any damage done to her. If you die, the Vestal has saved your body, and so it remakes it with all your memories. But since this is a new body, she has none of the resources collected. Those are placed where her old dead body was. So she must go and recollect them. But she isn't the only one that is repaired while this happens. All the enemies she destroyed are back too. In FromSoft's games, the reason for you losing all your resources when you die was never really clear to me. It always felt like it's a magic system and we make the rules and these are the rules. But in this game, it has actually gone forward and grounded the reason for you losing everything when you die and needing to go back and collect it in reality, or at least as much in reality as this game is in. So this game, in this much time, has somehow managed to give a better explanation than its source of inspiration, and it draws no attention to it. Also, FromSoft's games have generally agreed that bosses and mini-bosses do not respawn, which is great gameplay-wise, but the explanation given in most cases is the tutorial pop-up which says most enemies respawn. But while this game doesn't outright explain it, there is an implicit explanation. The 3 bosses that I've come across in this closed beta are all labeled as unstable. That is, they are not what was intended, so obviously, why would they be repaired? Alright, now that I have spent an ungodly amount of time on things that most people would just gloss over, let's talk about something we all care about: gameplay and story. In terms of story, this game doesn't have much, which is to be expected. It is only a closed beta at the moment. However, what little is presented in this closed beta is brilliantly crafted through amazingly voice-acted cutscenes and beautiful and at the same time terrifying environment. Like this house where the stairway is blocked and the lift is broken, so you realize subconsciously that someone has hidden themselves and blocked the stairway deliberately from the machines before the game spells it out for you. But let's talk gameplay. The gameplay is very much original Darksouls, with enemies and you slow moving and sprinting taking away your stamina, which is something that Elden Ring changed, with you being able to sprint endlessly in the absence of enemies. Now, this might be a positive for some and negative for others. Me personally, I loved it because I am a fan of Darksouls. The stamina in this game is explained by the automatons overheating, and in order to get out of a sticky situation because your stamina ran out, you can initiate something which this game calls instant cooling, which gives back your stamina quicker than usual and damages enemies around you to give you some breathing space. However, the cost of this is that the coolant does frost damage to you, and if you collect too much frost damage, you are frozen in place, leaving you open to an enemy attack. Which brings me to this game's alchemy system. Basically, this game's version of elemental damages. Flame, which burns you, causing constant damage. Frost, which freezes you, leaving you open for attack. And fulmination or lightning damage, which shocks you every time you get hit, increasing the damage sustained. Now, on their own, they are a pretty interesting system, but the spanner in the works is the fact that you can inflict these damages onto enemies. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a logical thing, but let me explain what the issue is. Very early on, I gained a musket that uses alchemical capsules to inflict frost damage, freezing the enemies in place, and then you can wail at them without any punishment. And while I am not aware if this was a random drop, there is a starting class which you can choose to get this as a starting weapon. All enemies and bosses I encountered can be cheesed by this weapon. And not only does this game not punish you for this, it is the preferred option, as the musket is a ranged weapon, and while helping you keep damaging the enemy with them having no way to damage you, it also has no stamina cost. Now, to be fair, you can't do this willy-nilly. Alchemical capsules are a semi-rare resource you can run out of, so it does balance it out a little, but if the game actually wants to get over this problem, it needs an enemy type or at least some bosses that are immune to this. Again, I understand this is an extremely short beta and this might not be a problem in the full game, but this is something that stood out to me, so I spoke out about it. This is one of the few grievances I had with the gameplay, and I want to clarify, I enjoy the gameplay regardless. Everything from the combat animations to the way the automatons walk and move and responsive controls more than make up for this. If I had a few other grievances to state, I would say that the blocking is not a default thing, it is something which is called a special move of certain weapons, whereas other weapons have other special moves. Now this may be seen as a positive by some, as certain weapons would encourage a more aggressive playstyle, while others would be more defensive. And it's not like this game doesn't have good dodge mechanics and hitboxes. But I don't know man, I love to play with blocking, so I'm personally restricted to only a few weapons, which I don't know how I feel about. There were also some times where it wasn't exactly clear how I was to go where I was supposed to go, but that barely bothered me, and I'm grasping at straws at this point to criticize an otherwise flawless gameplay system. If you are a fan of the original Souls-like gameplay, you will enjoy this as I did. Now, closely connected to gameplay, we must talk about level design. The artwork and environments in the levels are amazing. I was playing at the lowest possible graphic settings because otherwise my laptop would just explode in the heat, and yet I could pick up the details in the enemies, main characters and the walls that enclose them. The cloth physics could use a little work though, but this is a beta and cloth physics problems plague even the most polished games ever. So I have good faith that this will either be fixed when the full game comes out, or it just wouldn't be an issue that's talked about that much. As I have said before, the game does tell a story through its environment and level design. Like this young soldier, I found dead, assuming of course that it was an automaton because I could not see its skin clearly, only to then be corrected by ages as we see a pile of dead soldiers cluing us in to the upcoming boss battle.
The Swiss Guard, killed by the automats that replaced them.
Or as I gave an example above, with someone blocking a staircase to keep the automatons from getting to him. A few other smaller examples that I found were of this family that is scared of automatons and has locked themselves in, or this random person who are so afraid to go out that they won't even go out to get water. If I were, however, to have grievances with the level design, I would say that the checkpointing is very inconsistent. At times, it will be amazing with cleverly placed shortcuts allowing you to skip a tedious slog through multiple enemies in case you die and respawn at a vestal, and other times it's horrifyingly bad, which is something I commented on while I was dying repeatedly to the first boss in the game. I mean, why isn't the checkpoint closer to him? Like, getting to that person is half of the issue. In my opinion, checkpoints should be placed close to bosses, either directly before or after, so that we can either not have to go through billions of annoying enemies to get to where we want to get, or right after a boss fight we can immediately save and restock, because it is intensely frustrating to have just beat a boss only to then be killed by random Joe number 69 and then be sent all the way back to the last checkpoint. Again, I understand that this is only a beta, and I hope this is fixed for the full game, but if you were to ask me personally, I don't think that this will be the case. Seeing that this inconsistent checkpointing might be intentional, as it is similarly inconsistent in the original Dark Souls game that started this genre. And the problem with this inconsistent checkpointing system is not just that, oh, a random enemy kills me after a boss. The problem is when it is good, I just get confused and assume that there is no checkpoint nearby because the game has conditioned me that way, even though in reality it actually has a shortcut to the closest checkpoint which could have helped me avoid a very large slog. But anyways, these are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Will you buy Steelrising, or is this just not up your alley? What did you think of my first video of this type? Perhaps you have some comments or tweaks to suggest. Go crazy in the comments. Seriously, I don't get any. Please comment. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you are enjoying what you are watching. And if you want more content like this, then hit the subscribe button with the bell icon set to all notifications. And with that, I shall see you in the next one.